everybody, good afternoon. We're going to continue with the global theme here. I know we're based in Los Angeles. There's a lot of talk here as a US hub for influencer marketing. But there's also a lot going on all around the world in markets like China, across Europe. And we have two great speakers here about it. We have Anita, who's here from Hong Kong. She flew in yesterday. Thankfully, she's not too jet lagged. And we have Marco here from Italy to give us the European perspective. So based on the work that they do with their clients, there's a lot of firsthand experience that I know that they can talk about, not just what's happening in these markets, but how you might want to think about working with influencers in international markets as kind of that next phase beyond just here in the US. So just to kick things off, I thought maybe we could just see what makes influencer marketing just so different in maybe your part of the world in Asia and your part of the world in Europe, just at a high level?
So for China, I will start with China. So as you guys all know, YouTube or Facebook or Instagram doesn't have any impact there. So we need to go for the local platforms. And there are a number of new platforms that rose to prominence over the last 2 years. So the one thing that I want to say is if you have a vendor or a supplier that comes to you and tell you, we're the expert in social media marketing for China, run, because that's not the case. Every day we are unlearning the old platforms and we are learning the new platforms and how things work on there. And so like the new platforms, namely are TikTok that you guys have talked a little bit about over just now, and also Red, Xiaohongshu. That's basically a platform that it's a social media platform plus an e-commerce platform plus a product review platform, all in one platform basically. And so this monetization is huge opportunity for all of the KOLs or the brands basically in one platform. Yeah.
And I think that's unique. I think if you look at China, you do have a lot that is very much customized and tailored for that market, especially around the social media platforms that users are taking part in. But I think, Marco, would you say that's the case in Europe, or would you say it's more on the globally relevant platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I can say that we are lucky enough to have the same way of you guys working in the United States with the platform, social media, the way you guys interact with influencers. One of the biggest difference we have in Europe is that we have a bunch of people living in a bunch of different countries with different regulation, different way of approaching the social media. We still have a lot of presence on Facebook in Spain and in Greece, while Instagram is just something new. While if you go in UK, everybody is working on performance marketing through Instagram. So to me, since I've been living and working with influencers marketing and the way the brand want to set strategy throughout the Europe, what I understand, and I keep helping brand understand that it's a matter of balance between what they think they are and they want to push in terms of their brand strategy and what the perception of the different countries target and how also they react. The way we are interacting with this brand is slightly different. So it should be a kind of a compromise, but not in a negative word, because when you adapt a local strategy from US to Europe, you also have to do another level of adjustments, so from each single region. And this is extremely helpful because what we are facing is a conversation that is slightly, but ultimately drastically is changing and shifting from what the concept of the product placement on the storytelling is about to what the experience a brand is. And this is probably the biggest effect that we're seeing in the social media industry so far.
And I think you kind of touched on another side of the multicultural influencer marketing. I mean, I think we talked about it a bit in the last panel, especially here in the US, but I think in Europe, it's kind of unique that you do have so many different countries in close proximity, and influencers will have audiences based in different geographies. I mean, how does that play out as you're looking at maybe a pan-European campaign? Is it hard to tailor and identify influencers that can really impact the audience you're looking for?
Yes or no? Yes, because a lot of regional brands think that super powerful influencers have at least 80 or 70 or 90% of their fan base in one country, which is not true. It's not like US. So this is going to impact also the way a single brand is perceived throughout different countries because of a multicultural audience that follows specific influencers. But on the other side, it's very good to see the way that brand is doing a step back and trust the influencers because they've been trusted by their audience and they better know how to deliver a message and deliver an experience. So biggest brand, just brand next door, really are digesting the fact that it's all about experience. Whatever it's a pen drive, whatever it's a vacation, whatever it's a pair of shoes. And another form of trust and reliability is that influencers are gaining a lot of power in creating the storytelling. So what previous panel show out about the storytelling and the relevance of doing that is giving me, is giving me the chance to think that influencers are not only storytellers, but they are story producers.
I think, again, going to some of the local nuances, Anita, one of the things you just brought up is the different platforms. And one of the things I think is unique about China is also this idea that you can link and attribute a lot more influencer activities to sale, given that you have platforms like WeChat. Could you talk a little bit about that side? Because I think a lot of what we hear in the US is very hard to make that attribution and calculate return on investment. But based on some of the platforms you see in China, it seems like that might be a little different.
Yeah, so the example that we just had is for May 20th in China, it's called 520 Wu Erling. That means I love you in Chinese. So basically in China, everything turns into a shopping opportunity. So November 11th is a Singles Day, and it's like, let's do shopping. 520, let's do shopping. And so we have a client, then they will be like, okay, so let's have this limited edition of lipsticks that's called 520, and I think one of the things that Marco said really well is like the brands that they trusted us, that's the best brand that we want to work with, because then they will say, this is the brand, this is the product, this is the budget, and this is the number of lipsticks that we are envisioning to sell on this platform. And it was 10,000 limited edition of that lipstick. Well, 3 lipsticks, basically, a set of lipstick at US $100. So it's actually quite expensive. And so what happened is we find influencers on Red, basically, and they were doing product testing and showing off the product and basically showing to the community in their own very authentic way. And so what happened is the campaign, because the client trusted us and because it's a limited edition, there's this fleeting effect, and because of this boredom economy where people just want to be part of that community and listen to this guy talking about lipsticks. And so right now it's not even May 20th. They already sold, I think, 90% of the whole inventory. And all of that is very visible. It's very transparent in that platform because you only see yesterday I checked, there's only 1,624 pieces of lipsticks left. And that is, if you calculate that, the influencer's budget is probably about 1/10 of the revenue, the gross revenue that they're driving. So the gross revenue they're driving is $1.5 million US. And so once they see that it's a 10x thing, then basically they will run around and look for inventory and create the next buzz and basically leave you alone with the budget and say, Anita or Icicle, this is the budget, just leave me alone, do anything you want to, but this is the inventory that I have, and this is the stuff that I want to sell at this particular date.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think looking at kind of the paying influencers, the fact that this does vary quite a bit by geography, by maybe the industry that you're in. I mean, Marco, have you seen things, I think, maybe from a regulatory perspective? What should brands keep in mind? Should we be worried just about like certain disclosures, or are there other factors in international markets that companies should think about when they partner with a brand in an overseas market?
So it's pretty common to see hashtag like advertising throughout Europe. There are different regulation throughout the different countries, but the European Union is going in a unique direction. And even the target audience really react and act positively to the disclosure. Again, it's a matter of trust. If the audience trust an influencers living an experience with and for a brand, talking about something, whether it's a product, whether it's a brand equity, and they disclose it to the audience, they can also gain feedback, they can also gain comments, they can also gain suggestion and insight, and who's going to win? The brand. So everybody is going in this direction.
Is that the case in I guess, China, Anita? I know because of the way the social media landscape is, you have a lot more government intervention in certain cases. I guess, what's unique about influencer marketing there?
This is very interesting because when it comes to social media, there's the illusion that government is not intervening per se. When you think about the traditional media 10 or 20 years ago with the newspaper, because it's under one party, a single party dictatorship, then everything is controlled by the government. The way it's presented, each word is actually vetted by the government. Now there's this illusion of decentralizing all this information on the platforms like Weibo or WeChat. At the end of the day, these are all scanned. So there are stuffs that, for example, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but Winnie the Pooh is banned in China just because he looks a little bit like our President Xi. And so I did a scan yesterday on Weibo, and when you type Winnie the Pooh, I don't know if I'm going to be in trouble, but if you type Winnie the Pooh on Weibo, and basically it will still show a little bit of pictures of Winnie the Pooh, but then you will see there's a limited number of it. So in a way, like the shopping and the free ambient, that environment, it's everybody knows is an illusion, but I feel like they are enjoying it, and there are stuffs that they know that they need to stay away from. For example, Winnie the Pooh. I love it, but then, so I'm not too sure if I'm answering your question from a regulative perspective, but things are being scanned 24/7.
No, yeah, you definitely answered my question. I've seen the pictures of Winnie the Pooh and President Xi. They look pretty similar. But you're right. I think it is different in China in the sense that it's not just one-off regulations on campaigns, just about any aspect of the internet. If it has to do with anything socially related, there will be certain scans of it and that type of stuff. So, no, it makes complete sense. So how hard would it be for an American brand, let's say like a fashion brand or an apparel brand, to just work with influencers if they're based in the US and they want to go into Europe or they want to go into China? How hard is that? Could they get some initial awareness without having a physical office over there? What would it take just to get started? I mean, maybe we can start with you, Marco, and then Anita.
In theory, it's not hard. It's going to become harder and harder whenever there's no, let's say, respect of timing and approach of local influencers. Barrier language could be another big issue for those countries that are not so familiar with the English. But I think it's an American just understand what he's looking for and the countries you want to tap into it is looking to enter. Digestive, the way that influencers are different from what you can search and get in touch with in the United States, it's easier. Then there's the other part of the strategy, the competition. So why a Spanish should follow a Spanish influencers promoting an American brand that doesn't exist in Europe. So there's other stuff into the strategy that take into consideration. So there's no matter of being physical, not physical, but it's, again, cultural and the way the timing should be managed. So it's better to be timing than good.
And Anita, I know it probably varies depending on the industry you're in, but in China, how hard would it be for an American brand to, work with relevant Chinese local influencers to, build some awareness about some new products or some other key objective?
I think the biggest challenge if they don't have a local office, I think the biggest challenge is the time zone difference. Because if you think about a campaign that's with the KOL or influencer, you probably need to have a day daily report or daily update to the client on where we are at and how the influencers are doing, and if they have come up with a script already. So that takes a daily kind of cadence to talk to the client and basically earn their trust. So what we did is we removed that challenge by having us in Hong Kong map to US time, so then we can work with the brand directly and make sure that we earn their trust in the way that we are present in their time zone, so then they can get our support whenever they need. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I would refrain from having the influencer talk to the brand directly, especially in China, because there is this language issue, but there's also this cultural nuances where when they are in front of the brand, they tend not to say no to things that doesn't make sense. For example, like they want to say, oh, you did a really good job with the other brand. Can you redo that all over again? Here's the script. And then so the short answer should be no, because every campaign is different. I can't just replicate the last one because it won't work. But then for them to say no to the brand or the client it's unthinkable. Probably it's a culture thing. So like as a middle person, you probably need to navigate both kind of difference in culture and make sure that the brand at the end of the day win, because they're paying for a huge amount of money, and they're like that far away and they can't fix things if things are not working.
I just want to jump into, because we had in the past, I think 12 months a chance to work together. So it was a European brand that want to jump into China, Hong Kong. So since we're partner, we have European offices, call it Anita offices, and say, okay, these are the products, these are the brand objective and goals, this is the list of process we used to follow when we interact and reach out for influencers. And Anita offices a day after say, okay, that's super clear what you do, super smooth. I think it works throughout the world, but not here. So forget about the process and adjust to the local market. Just consider that in US, reaching out influencers can take you 24 hours. In Italy and north of Europe, between 3 days and a week. I guess in China is more than a week as an average, right?
Were there anything else where you looked at this and you're like, this just doesn't make any sense?
So, there's so many. But this is just just to support what I was telling before. Matter of understanding the culture and adjust the strategy to what the culture's boundaries are. And then it should be a win-win strategy.
Yeah, so I think it seems like what you're both saying is when it comes to international, the role of the agency becomes much more important because they're kind of that cultural bridge, whether that be time zones or actual the national cultures, especially if you have to stay up all night on U.S. time zones. So. Fantastic. Well, I guess just last few questions. I guess, is there anything that we haven't talked about that if you were to say a brand is trying to go global, or if a brand already is global and they want to work with local influencers in different markets, what advice would you give them? Is there anything else that you think is kind of best practices that most companies should be putting in place? Just maybe the last question to each of you.
So just 3 words: call, open, influence. No, apart from that, brand thinks that it's a matter of money, and it is. So better to spend and invest money, energy, and time before any campaign can be strategically thought and executed, and spending a little bit more money on having a local partner or having an agency that take care of your business instead of randomly choose for something that costs less, or just because you want to save a day or two.
All right. And Nina?
I think it's a very similar situation with brands, like trusting us will be the best. And if the brands has already a preconceived notion of how influencers work in the rest of the world or in the US, and they want to just replicate it in China, our approach is probably do not call us, not call us, because we know definitely it will fail, and we definitely want people to succeed, right? We want the brand to succeed, and so if they really want to do a replicate and just call it a day and call it a checkbox, right? We're in China. These are the checkbox we've done. Then we probably, don't call us.
All right, well, we'll leave with that with Anita.
Actually, call us.
No. We'll leave like this. If you need to do business in Asia, especially China, I think you know Anita's information up here. Same with Marco. I think we have two great connectors. But in any event, it was great to hear their perspectives, learn a little bit more about what it's like to do influencer marketing internationally. And thank you for your time.
Thank you all.